Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of RV Business Capital Talk, sponsored by Excel. I'm Rick Kessler. With me, Sherman Goldenberg. We're from RV Business, and joining the two of us today is Nicole Schantz. Nicole is the Vice President at Trader Interactive for Strategic and OEM Partnerships. And Trader Interactive, by the way, that's the parent company of RV Trader and some of the other Trader magazines, but also Statistical Surveys, Inc. out of Grand Rapids. Nicole, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. I would never miss this opportunity to spend some time with both of you.
Well, one of the things we wanted to start with, and we're going to talk a lot about the state of the market, especially from RV Trader's perspective, but I wanted you to explain to the people watching exactly what kind of reach RV Trader has.
Absolutely. So RV Trader has been around for over 30 plus years. And Rick, as you mentioned, started in print, but really we are 100% digital. And so we work with both dealers and private consumers all across the country to basically help consumers buy and or sell their next RV. So we have over 6.5 million unique consumers utilizing our site in any given month. And so we really do believe and we are the largest marketplace out there. So we have a really, really great pulse on what's going on with the industry real time most of the time. And then of course with stat surveys, we can kind of, see how that all reflected a couple months later based on registered sales.
Very good. Now, the $1 million question in the industry right now is, when will the market return? And we ask all kinds of smart people and you get all kinds of different answers, but for the most part, people are, I guess optimistic would probably be the best word to use, but for the most part, they're pretty resilient. The industry will make its recovery in a bit. But you guys have actually gone out and polled consumers that visit your site. Tell us about that study.
Yeah, absolutely. Sherm, did you have something? I saw you.
No, I'm glad he reminded me of that.
All
yeah.
Right. Sounds good. Yeah, we, like I said, we have a huge reach nationwide. So we really like to take the opportunity to, kind of talk with those consumers and survey them to get a little bit of that landscape. And what I can say is we feel very, very confident and optimistic about what we're seeing thus far as well. Certainly in just kind of, looking at some of the data that we saw, 60% of consumers feel optimistic about the overall economy. And, with seeing that number, like, hey, you're always going to get the pros and the cons here, and everyone's, got the questions. But, with that data point alone, we feel very optimistic about it, as well as obviously the traffic that we are still seeing on our site and the lead volume that we're still seeing going to dealers and private consumers in the industry.
Can you dive down into some of that data for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, 60% of consumers are definitely feeling confident within the industry. And, I think, overall, even with some uncertainty in the market, 85% of consumers still said they plan to purchase.
That's pretty good.
Really, really good, nice, strong number that I feel like we can all take and feel very confident and positive in.
I just want to say that we hear so much conflicting stuff on a weekly basis, talking to everyone who's an expert and not. And it's very neat, very interesting to hear optimism in so many words.
Yeah.
Early in the second quarter of 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it goes without saying, we've certainly seen some of the numbers, right? You've got some, supply changes happening, a lot of supply changes happening, in 2023. So got to give it to our OEMs. They're looking at the industry, they're making adjustments so that we can level out that supply and demand. And we're seeing that, as we're moving into 2024, that supply is, we're seeing a couple months of that uptick, based on what the reports are. As far as sales, January did not start out as strong as maybe we had hoped, but it's really not that bad. And it's still January. So you've got seasons, you've got weather, you have all of that. But at the end of the day, even that, 38% of consumers that were a little pessimistic maybe about the economy still in our survey, they still said they plan to buy. So, right, 85% still said they plan to buy. And so I think what we all need to really take a step back and think about is that there's just going to be adjustments. Consumers, they're going to be more price conscious. They're going to, have to, maybe not, pick the unit or the model that has all the bells and whistles. They may need to, scale it back a little bit. But I don't think consumers are just exiting the industry by any means, right? We just have to kind of know what's happening. And I think everyone's paying attention to that. I'm talk to OEMs on the daily and dealers. And I think we're all kind of aware of what's happening with those consumers. And so we just need to have really good options for them. Here at RV Trader, we're constantly talking to dealers about merchandising. Merchandising is super, super critical. You have to stand out, against your competition and make sure that you've got the best foot forward so that the consumers that are on the site or anywhere, out there shopping, are finding your inventory and, having a good experience overall.
Nicole, I'm curious. I know over the years we've talked to you a bit about the used sales occurring on RV Trader versus new sales, sales of new units, that is. Are you seeing any kind of a trend one way or the other with those two different categories?
Yeah, really interesting. So from a sales registration data from statistical surveys, like I said, we saw the first part of the year, new unit sales were down about 4%, and then used unit sales were down about 10%. However, what's really interesting, and this is a little bit of the secret sauce, and we get a lot of questions on this here at RV Trader. The reality is consumers don't know. Consumers don't really know what they want. Ultimately, consumers told us that, or 60% of consumers said that they planned on buying used. This was in the survey. However, based on our actual site metrics and how we're seeing consumers actually shop, we actually saw that 18% of consumers clicked the button that said they only wanted to view used units. 2% said, I absolutely am buying new units. And the rest, the other 80% of consumers either left it blank, meaning, hey, I'm open, I'm looking for the right unit, or it didn't matter to them, right? Or they clicked both. So I think what that means to me is there really is an opportunity in this market, especially given economic things that we're seeing, opportunities that dealers have. I would say financing, right? If you can bring that consumer into your pipeline, give them a good experience, at the dealership level, have that differentiation, from an OEM perspective, making sure you're paying attention to what those consumers are buying and those little features and filters that they're doing. But if we can offer, good financing opportunities for dealers, for consumers, we're going to be able to push them from thinking they want used, hey, but for just this much a month, we can get you into this new model. So, I think that's a given. This is the same thing year after year. There is nothing special about this year. It just is really going to come back to looking at that data, making adjustments. We cannot set and forget anymore. We've got to get back to the basics of selling, maybe some selling training, merchandise, right? This is back to the basics, but we're excited about this year. We're seeing some good trends and feeling very confident about the rest of the year.
One other question, Nicole, and you're not prepared for this one, so I apologize. Are the shopping trends, have they pretty much stayed the same from when you first started measuring it on RV Trader to what they're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, every year is going to change, but if I were to compare last year to this year, right, I think a lot of times, we've been comparing over the last couple of years to COVID years, but I don't know about you, I'm tired of talking about it. So I'm really looking at kind of last year, and here's what I will say. There is more inventory out there than we've seen in a long time. And so that's why I'm really pushing on this merchandising piece, because with more inventory, it means consumers have more options. And with more options, they do not have to pick up the phone or email or, reach out to, is this available? We saw a lot of that in the last couple of years when nobody had any inventory. So now it really comes down to consumers are shopping longer. to find that right unit. They're staying on our site longer because there's more units to look at. And as far as leads, they don't have to call 5 dealers anymore to see if, do you still have this? They pretty much have figured out that if a dealer is listing it, they have the unit. And so, yes, we are seeing kind of those impacts that, dealers are feeling and talking about, definitely. But again, it's kind of back to norm. We have to sell, we have to merchandise, we've got to put our best foot forward and give that consumer a really, really solid shopping experience.
Sherman, did you have a question?
No, I'm really impressed. I could add that. At the volume of information, fresh from the market. But no, you go ahead, Rick.
Okay. Well, you mentioned a couple of times about how the dealers need to stand out. They need to market themselves for that differentiation. Any couple of thoughts on top of your head on what are some of those tips might be?
Absolutely. It starts with photos. Please make sure that you have as many photos as possible. Consumers want to see all the photos. Get your outside views, your inside views. They want to, pretend that they're basically, they're sitting at their computers, at their desks, or out at a, soccer game this spring. And they're doing all their research right online before they ever, communicate out. So best foot forward on merchandising in photos. Pricing is really critical right now. Talked about in the data, consumers, right? They're having to really look at, they want to still buy, they're out there, they're interested, but they're having to make a couple of concessions. So pricing, watch your lots, watch your inventory turn. We're definitely starting to see that, not be exactly where we want it to be. And so you've got to make adjustments. There's all sorts of different tools and data out there, including, RV Trader's got tools too, but watch that information, look at what your competitors are doing. We all got to make money, but we can't just set it and forget it and hope that someone's going to pay this price just because that's what we want them to pay. If you need to move it, you've got to get better awareness and exposure on that unit. You've got to be in the right places. You have to merchandise it. You've got to, properly price it, competitively. You got to train your sales team so that when you do get that lead, you're handling it appropriately. Not just, saying, yep, this is what it is, and hoping that the consumer is so hungry and excited that they're just going to buy it. That is not the case anymore. We all have to work harder to do a good job and earn their business.
Do you, pardon me, Rick, do you generate as a corporation your own outlook? Do you publish or openly transmit any sort of a 2024 outlook?
We have not done a 2024 outlook at this point, but we do tend to, pull in various data points, from stat surveys, as well as some of the search volumes and things that we are seeing on RV Trader, and we'll do some white papers from time to time. So definitely be on the outlook for something like that to be coming out.
Okay.
But more of a closed paperwork, more of a private information for you and your clients.
Well, clients in general, we have all sorts of different, programs that we're working on. Any program that, a dealership or an OEM would work with us. We have all sorts of data, that we can show trends and things like that. At the make, model, DMA level. I mean, there's a lot of data that we have. And so that's very unique based on what that overall client is doing with us or what those needs are. But from an industry standpoint, we typically would launch information like that in a white paper or something like that.
Okay.
I think, like Sherman said earlier, I think it's refreshing to hear your takeaway on this, and that's, the shoppers are still out there. They're still interested. You just got to do a little bit of a better job of marketing to them. All right.
Yeah. We can only control what we can control. Unless you guys have the magic wand on lowering interest rates, I don't. Right? We can control only what we can control, and that's what we have to focus on right now.
Before we sign off, I do want to once again publicly thank Nicole and her team. They supply RVBusiness with a column in every one of our magazines that talks a lot about what she just said. But the other thing I want to thank Nicole and her team for is the top 50 sponsorship. And this year will be the first year that we are giving out the Sherman Goldenberg Digital Excellence Award. Can't think
Such
of
an honor.
a better topic for a better namesake.
Listen to him.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
We're
listen to
very
me,
excited.
Nicole, thank you again. This has been wonderful.
Thank you again. Always a pleasure to chat with you all, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.